Hi everyone, long time no review. This is why I have something special for this video. This is Sony A7R II, probably the most badass mirrorless camera ever made. This is not a brand new camera, it was announced in June of 2015. Since then, lots of reviews on this camera were published and they range from the ones who claim this is the second coming of the Christ up to those who consider A7 as overpriced and overhyped gadget. As always, truth is somewhere in the middle. Still, I need to point out this is one of those cameras that made me completely change my opinion about it several times during my review time. But let's start at the beginning, at the heart of the camera, and that is image sensor. A7R II has 42 megapixel full-frame stabilized sensor. After Canon 5DS, this is the highest pixel count you can get without going medium format. Image quality is superb. With good high-resolving lenses, amount of details in images is phenomenal. These days dynamic range is the main point of interest, and if this is what you like, A7 is the camera to have. A quick comparison with my Canon 6D shows huge difference in ability to lift shadows in post-process. High ISO is also superb. It is almost irrelevant whether you use ISO 100 or 3200. It is as clear as possible. But not everything is perfect. Personally, I don't like the colors this camera produces. Even in RAW format, I can't easily get colors Canon makes by default. I guess it's just the matter of taste. Sensor, as I said, is stabilized. A big plus since all the lenses you attach to this camera will become stabilized. If you have some high quality lenses without stabilization, this camera will give them new life. Ergonomics has improved in some areas over first generation A7 cameras. Mark II has a bigger grip and overall beefier feel to it. It is easier to hold and feels much better with bigger, heavier lenses. Still, there is a lot to improve. Front dial is too recessed and hard to reach without my index finger rubbing against middle finger. Also, back dial is too far from the thumb rest and hard to reach. The third dial at the back is, by the look and feel of it, probably the identical piece of plastic from 2010 model NEX-5. It doesn't offer good grip, and since it doubles as multi-way controller and rotating dial, too gentle. It is very often I press it accidentally when I only wanted to rotate it. Menu system is a disaster. It's the same menu we are seeing for something like 7 to 8 years now, but Sony kept adding new features with each new camera model, so this one is very hard to navigate. Luckily, no less than 10 external buttons are customizable, as is the case with Quick Menu. If you spend some time playing with these options, A7 can be significantly customized and all important options can be reassigned to direct buttons. Build quality sounds great on paper. Magnesium alloy body with weather sealing. What could possibly go wrong? A little bit of rain, it seems. So this weekend I was at Medieval Festival and I'm just strolling around snapping some pics when rain started to fall. Suddenly I realized there is sun and rain all at the same time, so I'm trying to get a shot or two in these interesting weather conditions. When all of a sudden A7 drops this warning on the screen and refuses to take more images. This accessory is not supported by the device and cannot be used. Please verify the compatibility with the device. At this point I was done with this camera. I thought to myself, the review is over. I have been shooting in much worse conditions in much heavier rain with entry-level cameras from all manufacturers, including entry-level Sony DSLR models, and not even once has the gear malfunctioned. A7 has. To my best knowledge, the reason for this were these electrical contacts inside the hot shoe. For some reason they probably short-circuited and the camera thought that something was attached, although nothing was on the camera at the time. Anyway, in 10 to 15 minutes the camera dried up and continued to work as if nothing had happened. If I were a professional photojournalist, I guarantee you this camera would be sold the next day. I simply don't care how good dynamic range is, if it stops working in the field and I lose a shot because of it, the camera is. This Sony lets you use full mechanical shutter, electronic first curtain or full electronic shutter. When in electronic mode, this camera is absolutely silent. Great feature when you need to stay unnoticed, but comes with a downside. When enabled, RAW files are automatically downgraded to 12-bit mode. Also, there is a danger of getting streaks across images when using certain combinations of shutter speeds and some artificial lighting like in these examples. And yet more, it is possible that rolling shutter effect occurs if something is moving in the frame. Be careful when using silent shutter. Auto ISO control has one of the best implementations. You can select lower and upper limit and the lowest shutter speed at which ISO will change. Even better, Auto ISO works in manual mode combined with exposure compensation, something Canon cameras still do not have. Autofocus system uses combination of contrast and phase detect points, 399 of them. There is a lot of configuration layouts, but I won't go into details this time. Focus points can be set anywhere in the frame and you can change their size. Focus speed is rather good, in some instances almost the same like DSLR, but with some lenses and in some scenarios it's a bit slower. Usually you will never wait more than a second even in really low light. Also, focus accuracy in single focus is practically 100%. Thing I really dislike about this camera is the fact that there is no direct focus point selector. What Alpha 7 needs is a small joystick which would allow fast focus point change. The way things are now, you always need to press some other button to bring up focus point selection tool and then press multi-way controller multiple times or use front or rear dial. Not a very good solution. LCD has usual 3 inches diagonal and 1.2 million dots. It can be tilted 45 degrees down and 90 degrees up. For video, fully articulated LCD with side hinge would have been better, but this up-down tilt is great for street photography. It is easy to frame shots from the hip. It's just a matter of personal preference if you prefer articulated or tilting LCD. Electronic viewfinder with 2.3 million dots is one of the best there is. Best thing about it is combination with ultimate low light sensor. So when it's too dark to see anything with my own eyes, and especially through optical DSLR viewfinder, Alpha 7 can boost up ISO and allow you to see and focus manually. This is clearly a step above any DSLR. Yes, you could use live view on DSLR, but only on LCD screen. On Alpha 7 you can see everything you need in viewfinder. One of the main selling points of this camera is the ability to use legacy lenses with full functionality. For example, this Metabones adapter allows for full communication between camera and lens, including metadata, autofocus and image stabilization. I've seen demonstration videos of this before, but only when I tried it in real life is when I realized how huge deal this is. If you have a bunch of Canon glass but need some features Canon cameras does not have, you can now buy Sony cameras. This is like using Sigma or Tamron lenses, but the other way around. You can combine bodies from two manufacturers the way you want. Not satisfied with Canon low dynamic range or the lack of 4K video? No problem, buy Sony. Autofocus speed with Metabones varies a lot depending what lens you use. For example, with the new 50mm STM lens, focusing is very slow. Between 1 and 5 seconds depending how much light there is and what you are trying to focus at. But with USM lenses like 24-105L, it takes less than a second to focus in most cases. This is still not like using these lenses natively on Canon, but nevertheless is very fast and opens a whole new world of opportunities. I wouldn't use this combination for sports, but for usual everyday work this is good enough. Just imagine combining Canon 50 and 85 1.2 lenses with Sony stabilized sensor for ultimate low light work. Alpha A7R II records video in 4K resolution. I won't go into many specifics since there are detailed video-centric reviews of this camera all over the internet, but this is clearly one of the best cameras you could buy for video. On my 4K TV set, videos are as detailed as you can imagine with excellent colors and very high dynamic range. Outstanding. So to round things up, Alpha A7R II is a camera of extreme differences. You will either love it or hate it, probably both at the same time. There are so many good things about it and at the same time a lot of those that should have been made much better. I like this camera primarily for its sensor. It has huge resolution, dynamic range and high ISO performance. It is also stabilized and produces phenomenal 4K video. It's also a real game changer due to ability to work with Canon lenses. But at the same time I can count as many things I don't like. This camera drove me mad at times due its bad controls and complicated menu system. And there was that one occasion when it stopped working in the rain. Finally, since it retails at very high price, I can see two types of buyers interested in it. Those with very deep pockets and photography professionals. If you are rich, you will buy it and have fun no matter what somebody on YouTube says. But if you need to make money for a living from photography, you better think twice before dropping this amount of money on a camera. Take a good look at all the good and bad sides and decide if there is something that will clearly be an upgrade to your existing gear and if you can live with all the downsides. Personally, after all that I've seen, I think I still like it. Won't buy it, it's way too expensive for me, but I still like it. Good job, Sony. Anyway, that's all for this review. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and thanks for watching.